Hey guys, week 6 of Super Rugby Unlocked. It is the second last week. The first game of this week on Friday night is Griquas versus the Sharks. It's going to be a tough game for the Griquas. I think they are dead last in the log. The Sharks, they have a lot to play for. They are 6 points behind the Bulls being on a bye this week. They need to win by 5 points, I would say. The Sharks do, because the Bulls are playing the Pumas next week. If they do slip up and not get 5 points in that week next week, the Sharks would be very happy with getting their 5 points this week. The two histories of the two sides, or let's just get into the most recent history. 0 from 4 for the Griquas, 3 from 4 for the Sharks. And so far, you can see the two seasons are opposite ends of the spectrum. It's at Tafellager Park. Usually the Griquas have a little bit of a advantage there, but light rain is expected. That gives the advantage more to the Sharks' side, because, I mean, the wet isn't the best for the Griquas. Going into the history between the two sides, it is even between the two, actually, so can't separate them there. But going into the two sides that have been picked, the Sharks and the Griquas have made a couple of changes. At number 2, Kieran van Vieren, he comes in at number 2. I actually thought Dan Juster hasn't done too badly at number 2, so Kieran van Vieren comes in. Hopefully he can sort out his line-out throwing at the start of the game. Oxenchair and Meyer, they continue as the props up against Van der Westhuizen and Corley. Both of them struggled a bit last week against the Stormers pack. Maybe in the start of the game they showed something there, but then Kitsoff and his blokes just pummeled them in there. Lees, he's been throwing very poorly in his lineouts. I think the Griquas, they lost 5 or so lineouts in their game. So Lindsay, he comes in at number 5, and hopefully that just stabilizes their lock pairing a little bit more for their lineouts. But Ruben van Heerden and Andrews, they are tough opponents to face in the lineout time. At 6 and 7, both of the flankers for the Sharks are replaced with James Venter. He's back from his slight injury he had. And then Bolly, he is getting a start for the Sharks. Stefan Willemse and Van der Merwe, they're continuing. They had good weeks in the start of the competition. Last 2 weeks, not too great. Johan Momsen, he is starting at number 8 up against Buthelezi, who's been great at number 8, by the way. They said that is his preferred position, and you can see that. Then it's Nohamba versus Zach Burger. Nohamba, he's been just doing his thing this whole season so far. Not as prolific as you would think in the start of the year as he was in the Super Rugby, but he's still doing a good job. Zach Burger, he's been a busy guy for the Griquas. He rejoins George Whitehead at the 9-10 pairing. George Whitehead also retains the captaincy again. That's just a better pairing for the side. I thought the number 10 would do a little bit better that came in last week, but George Whitehead is probably the preferred guy in that position and should be starting. He's a very, very educated boot in the side. Kerwin Bosch, he will like to see how he can go up against George Whitehead. Franke at number 12, I thought he did really well last week. A very physical guy, actually. You won't expect it when you see him. He has very narrow shoulders, but the guy's very, very physical in the tackles. Got a few big hits in there in his first start of the season. Versus Marius Lowe, who he's also a physical guy usually, but this season so far he's struggled a little bit to me. Then Jeremy Ward, he's the third captain for the Sharks so far this season. Klaassen, he is at number 13 this week, with Keeter moving to 11 again. Idris Arendse, who played his 100th game for the Griquas last week, he is at number 14. Penke, he's the number 14 for the Sharks. He's been good since going there, but not in the form we know him from the Kings. My matchup that I do think is going to be important is Banda versus Penke, because they are the two Kings that has moved on to different teams now in this Super Rugby Unlocked season, so they do know each other pretty well. At the fullback, the Sharks are kind of being rude in a way, playing Volmonk against his previous team that he played for just the other day in this competition for his debut. Volmonk played really well for the Griquas as well, so that's kind of just sticking it to them and just showing them, look who we bought, and playing him at number 15 in his first game. So that's going to be an interesting one as well. Then we get to the benches. Like I said, Dan Juster, I think he's probably the better line-out thrower of the hookers that they do have. He is on the bench. Khadebe, he's also on the bench for the Griquas. They have Beerwinkel, who's been scrumming well from the bench. Mona, I think he's making his debut for the Sharks, if I remember correctly. JJ van der Mescht, he's been doing okay this season. Not as good as I thought he would be. CJ Fallerman, he's also a Kings guy that has moved to the Griquas, probably only on a short-term deal. I've been excited to see him since the start, or since I heard he was announced to play for them. So I'm excited that he's gonna get a game time a little bit for him or for them. And then Cameron Wright, another Kings player with the Sharks again. We haven't seen him really play for the Kings yet, but Moni Lebok, he finds himself at number 22, so he'll probably go on at fly half in the second half. And in Corsi, he is at number 23. Guys, it is stacked up against the Griquas. They haven't won anything this season. Usually you would back them to beat a bigger team somewhere along the lines, but the Sharks are desperate to get a win. They need to put some pressure on the Bulls. Not that I think the Bulls will end up losing it at the end, because I mean their last game is against the Pumas, but you never know. So the Sharks and the Stormers still have that chance to pressure them this week. The Sharks, they'll try to get 5 points out of this. I do think they'll probably win by about 18 points, the Sharks. So that's my prediction for this week. Let me know your prediction down in the comments below. Also, subscribe to the channel here in the link below. Check out these videos, and then I'll see you for the next one. Cheers.